Hi everyone, I'm here in Palo Alto to interview someone from Vianai Systems. So let's see what's happening there. Hi everyone, welcome to the Ravit Show. We are here at the Vianai office and in Palo Alto. Super excited to be with Navin Budhiraja, who's the CTO and head of product here. Navin, welcome to the Ravit Show. It's your debut. I know this was long due, but it is so good to be here in Palo Alto at Vianai office. Just for our audience, would you like to quickly introduce yourself? Tell us more about what you do.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for actually having me on your show, and thanks for making the trip to our beautiful office here. So I'm the CTO and head of product for Vianai. We are a startup based in Palo Alto
Yep.
here in California. We are actually in the Gordon Moore Foundation building, so you are at a place which has a lot of history
History.
behind it as well. So yeah.
That's awesome. And yeah, when we were just stepping in as well, I felt super positive. I obviously wanted to, uh, learn more about the space as well. But quick questions for you here in terms of, I know we all have obviously seen and heard about you, the history and where you come from, but you grew up in Bhilai and
Mhm.
topped the IIT entrance exam, went to Cornell, and then also held leadership positions at various tech giants, AWS, SAP, IBM. But looking back, what experiences shaped and how you think about even building enterprise platforms is what I'm pretty sure my audience would want to learn, and even myself.
Oh wow. So you want to start off by actually letting people know how old I am? Is that your plan? Okay, so let me see. So maybe I think enterprise platforms. So maybe we can start start at Cornell,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then maybe we can go back further if you want to kind of see what happened there.
Sure.
So when I landed at Cornell, they actually had a amazing set of folks there. So those were kind of this tells you my age a little bit. Those were kind of the early days of the internet,
Mm-hmm.
desktop computing, workstations, and there's this fundamental new set of problems that had started to emerge because what was the goal there, and a lot of seminal early work happened at Cornell
Mm-hmm.
on that is how do you take these somewhat cheaper commodity machines and make them work in a way so that they can be as robust, as powerful, as scalable as the traditional way of doing things, which was mainframes and mini computers, right?
Right.
And so, in order to get there, one had to actually redo many of the algorithms, how you build large scale distributed systems,
Yep.
right? So that was what was going on at Cornell and seemed kind of exciting. And so I started doing that, and that's what I
Nice.
did my graduate work in. Um, and then, as luck would have it, IBM Research had a similar project happening there. So
Okay.
I landed up there. And soon after I got there, IBM got interested in making a product out of some of this research that was happening.
Yep.
So I started doing that. And as life takes you, then there was a bunch of ex Cornell folks who had started a company here in the Bay Area.
Okay.
And they reached out and, okay, what could be wrong going to a 6-person startup? And but the reason was that they actually wanted to take this work to the next level.
Okay.
Some of the work that you see in messaging systems like Kafka and so on,
Mm-hmm.
some of the early work happened in some of these startups, like the one I was at,
Okay.
right?
Nice.
And then life goes on. We had cloud computing and so on. So that in a way, this entry into enterprise and so on was something that just happened because I
Okay.
was at Cornell. And then there were enough things happening that kept me engaged, excited. So just stayed there, right?
Nice.
And so what did I learn from maybe my earlier days at IITs and so on? I think the biggest thing was get comfortable with complexity,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because many of these problems, as you can imagine, one has to try them. Many times they don't work. Like a lot of these things in distributed computing
Yeah,
happen to be like that. So,
totally.
and IITs force you to kind of deal with complex problems. So, I think that was one big learning from there that you kept on, right? So,
That's awesome. Yeah, obviously, I think solving that problem, and when you kind of you have multiple problems there
yeah.
to solve, it just makes it easier.
and
But
and kind of getting very comfortable with knowing that there's no way you are able to solve everything, right? So
so
working
true.
as a team, getting very comfortable with failing repeatedly.
Yeah.
It is make sure you learn that within the first semester, right? And same thing happens like in graduate school, as you can imagine,
Yeah.
right? So I think those were some of the things that I think you learn very quickly,
Yeah.
and then kind of hopefully helps you later on. Yeah.
I love your journey, and those are definitely very fascinating experiences, but also how it embeds into your journey in early in your career. But coming back to Vianai Systems and what you all are building right now, I would love for you to give us a little bit more about first of all, a little bit about Vianai for those who are new to Vianai and Vianai Systems and what you all do, but also would want to learn a little bit about company's mission and what problem are you trying to solve with Hila, which is like the platform, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So I think, as I mentioned, that there were a lot of exciting things happening in enterprise computing.
Yep.
Um, and it was not the case that similar great things were not happening in consumer companies.
Yep.
Actually, the consumer companies, many of them came a little bit later.
Yep.
Um, but one thing that you will find that while enterprises went through a lot of this innovation around distributed computing, around
Yep.
cloud and mobile and so on, if you actually look back at the experience of a business user or an employee,
Mm-hmm.
what they do and how they do it on a day-to-day basis, I feel nothing has changed fundamentally since, I would say, let's say, the personal computing or the internet, right? And why do I say that? Like, if you look at how our lives potentially have changed, right? So you had search showing up, things dramatically change how you and I look for information,
Yes.
right? Then imagine online shopping, right?
Mm-hmm.
Completely changed how everybody shops, right?
Yep.
And then go on like things like Uber, and hopefully in our lifetime, autonomous cars and things like
Cars.
that, right?
Yep.
I think you'll be hard pressed to find similar examples in enterprise where, as an employee, as a business user, fundamentally how I do my day to day has changed substantially, right?
Mm.
So what does that mean, right? Is that it's not that people haven't tried. I think it just turned out to be much harder
Yep.
to kind of, yeah, there's a lot of exciting stuff, as I said, happening in the back office, but as a user of it, as a business user, let's say I'm a sales leader or somebody in procurement or somebody in HR, how I use technology hasn't fundamentally changed,
Right.
right? So why am I telling you this story? So I think finally with generative AI, I think we all see that there is a possibility to actually make some of those improvements, right? So
Nice. Yeah.
so where does Vianai come into this? So we are taking this is a big problem, as you can imagine.
Yes.
There is a slice of that we feel there's an opportunity to fundamentally change the business users' experience, in which is how they get information from data within the enterprise,
Okay.
right? So the analogy being obviously search. We know how search works. It's amazing, but as you all know, there is actually little or no search, the kind that we see out in the consumer world inside the enterprise.
Right.
And for good reasons, it's much, much harder to do. There's different complexity.
Mm-hmm.
And but we don't handle the search problem the traditional way, which is mostly around unstructured data like documents, emails, and things, but your structured data
Okay.
sitting inside your ERP systems, your
Yep.
CRM systems. And why do I think of that similar to search? Because let's say I want to know, tell me who my best customers are. Well, in some sense, that's a search problem, but I need to go find my 10 best customers in
Right.
something else. Or I want to make it more complex. I want to say, find my 10 best customers who produce, or sorry, who buy these products,
Right.
but haven't bought them the previous year, and whose suppliers actually come from a certain region.
Okay. Okay.
Right now, the problem is more harder. Also, the data might now actually be in two different systems because the supplier information may be somewhere else.
True.
Right.
True.
So that's kind of the kinds of things that we want to do. But the way to do this today is somebody goes and creates a report in a traditional BI tool.
Mm-hmm.
But a business user typically does not do this because the skill level is somewhat different.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But a bigger challenge is that this process today is very slow. Why?
Okay.
Because one, if I have a question, then I need to find the person who can create that report for me.
Exactly.
And that person has to now find the right amount of time. They have to collect the data from wherever it is and bring that.
Right.
And data suggests that this takes about 5 days on an average today to do, right? And tens of thousands of dollars to actually answer this question that by the time the report comes back 5 days later, I may have forgotten why I even asked you that question.
Oh my God.
Right.
So the time consumption, resources that goes behind it.
Right. But at some level, it's a search problem that you and I have been kind of using the internet search for 20, 25 years now.
Right.
And not worry about how this information comes to us. Right. So that's kind of the specific focus for us.
Yep.
We call it essentially talking to data. Conversational analytics is the product that we have.
Nice.
And so the idea is that you just go ask these kind of questions, and these can get very complex. You could ask questions like, find me the 3 most interesting things this quarter that are different from the same quarter last year. Right? So you can ask very kind of somewhat ambiguous questions.
Right.
And the system has to figure out what the 3 most critical things are that you as a business leader would care about.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So that's the product we have. And we have a focus around finance as a starting point.
Nice.
But the product itself is not specific to finance. It could be an HR use case. It could be a procurement use
Totally.
case. Things like that.
Yeah, anywhere where they, any department that needs data needs search, it can be fit in there. But I'm kind of curious, since you mentioned about, say, finance being a very regulated industry, healthcare, again, very regulated industry. So when it comes to regulated industries, one thing, because I talk to a lot of enterprise leaders, they always tell me that, Ravit, we want to be very careful of the data, obviously the data security, but at the same time, we want to use AI responsibly. So how does hila tackles issues like hallucinations and trust? How does that kind of work with the hila platform?
Yeah. So you probably heard this stat that came out from MIT, I think last week or the week before, that like 95% of the Gen AI projects
Fail, right?
Haven't really gone anywhere,
Right.
Which is kind of unfortunate, right? Given the amount of money that is getting spent.
Infused, right?
And so none of us wants the same thing to happen that happened in the late 90s around all this investment. So yeah, I think the risks that, so kind of start with, why did we start with finance? So it's kind of important to understand the mindset of us.
Would love to know that,
of
yeah.
Vianai as to why would we in some way start with the hardest problem.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
So there's 2 reasons for that. So if you know the history of SAP, where some of us come from, the first product that SAP released was actually in finance. So SAP, the founders had the same mindset that if they can solve the problem for finance and the CFO,
They can do it
things
fine.
get a little smoother after that,
Yeah.
right? Because the CFO controls the purse. So if you make the CFO happy, the chances are that things will move forward.
Right.
But I think the more important reason is that I think there is complexity there that we wanted to tackle upfront
Mm-hmm.
around accuracy, around making something that our users can trust. And there are some fundamental problems that need to be solved. And we picked finance to kind of try to address that. And just so that you have a sense of how we do it, again, the details we can talk if we have time.
Yeah, for sure.
But fundamentally, the models are amazing. Right?
Mm.
They get better every few weeks, probably.
Yes.
But I think the biggest challenge they face to make them relevant in the enterprise, and that's where this 95% stat comes from, is we found that there are two main reasons. There are many reasons for things to hallucinate. The first one is the training data itself, as you know, right? If the
For
data
sure.
has problems, and these guys the models are trained on internet, there are all kinds of information there.
Exactly.
And so if your original data has challenges, it makes the challenge of addressing accuracy pretty hard, right? So that's the first thing you have to kind of try to sort out. And we do that on top of the large language model. So it's not that we are training our models from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you kind of leverage the model in a way so that the answers that it gives you are answers that just from a pure data standpoint, the data that it uses to answer is the right one that you want, right? That's one way to think about it, what we do. And the second part, which is equally important, hallucinations happen because the models don't have the right context.
Right.
So they will never know the profitability of a company, right? As an example, they might know what's in the public reports, but
Yep.
there might be something internal, right? So that's a simple way of explaining that context is important. But it turns out, given some of the examples that I mentioned, right? You want to know about profitability for a given customer in the context of certain suppliers.
Exactly.
So how do you make sure? Because this is massive amounts of data. You can't throw it like, I'm going to upload everything inside the model, and that breaks security, because the other constraint the enterprises have, you cannot send my data to the model.
Right.
So now how do you give the right context to the model without actually exposing the data to the model, right?
Yep.
So that's the context problem that needs to be handled in the kind of use cases that we are doing, right?
Yep.
So net, it turns out, yes, we have to address the accuracy problem. There is kind of no solution without making sure that your end users, the CFO's team, can actually trust it. And we do a lot of other things like making sure the audit trail is there. It shows exactly the steps that it went through, where it got the data from, how did it actually produce the final result.
Right.
All that information is also presented.
Yeah, I love those insights and love those, obviously points there. I'm kind of also curious to, since we are on this topic of finance and it's very close to my heart, the subject itself. Do you have any use cases that you can also share with our audience that comes to your mind? Because finance, again, it's very regulated, and first of all, picking that first as an industry to obviously solve problems is a big thing. So any use cases that you would like to share and how it actually helped those industries, would love to that industry in particular would love to know a little bit.
Yeah. I think what we see, and again, this is directly coming from our customers.
Yep.
So in finance, there are use cases, obviously outside of finance as well. There are two primary things that we see, right? So if I'm a finance professional inside the finance organization, there are broadly two kinds of things the finance individual does, right? And this is independent of the level of the person in the org. Their primary role is the business of finance itself, right? So make sure that the right kind of reporting happens, and
Right.
the right kind of audit information is available, so that the company is running in a way that um, uh, that everything is okay, right? That's the business of corporate finance
Yeah,
itself,
exactly.
including making budgets and allocating the right amount of expense budget to company, to the departments and so on, right?
Right.
That's the primary purpose of finance. However, they end up spending a lot of time doing something that, quote unquote, is not the primary purpose, is to help the business leaders outside of finance
Mm-hmm.
run their business well,
Yep.
right? So let's say I'm a sales leader, right? I want to know basically how is this customer doing from what they bought, uh, how much did they pay for it,
Yep.
what was the profitability for this particular customer for a given product, right?
Mm.
Similarly, we work with a services company, and they run a lot of projects, and they want to track how the project is doing from a profitability standpoint
Yep.
and things like that, right? Or so there are a lot of these things where finance information is an input a sales leader or a HR leader or a procurement leader needs.
Yep.
So what does that mean? They need a set of reports that are custom made
Mm-hmm.
and tuned for them.
Nice.
And,
Okay.
and that takes a lot of effort, right? So we are, so one of the use cases that we are working on finance is to make this, as we call the finance being a service provider to the rest of the company. How do you make that very easy to do, right? So we call it self-service finance. So again, I have a question about my customer. I'm a sales leader. I just go ask the question.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
nobody needs to go create this report that I said takes 5 days to create.
True.
Right?
True.
And the second use case is then directly helping the business of corporate finance.
Okay.
And because there are also a lot of activities, like a very common thing that corporate finance has to do is to close books at the end of each month.
Right.
So there's a set of activities that they do for month-end closing.
Exactly.
And it turns out that GenAI can actually augment and help the FP&A person, as an example, to make a lot of those things in a way that they're much more efficient.
Less mundane tasks and more.
Yeah, less mundane tasks. Like it can take companies a few weeks. You want
Exactly.
month-end to close at the end of the month.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And but that's so that there we have some actually capabilities in that
Nice.
area as well.
Nice.
So those are the two common use cases for finance.
Love it. Thanks for sharing that, Naveen. A little more, I'm kind of, wanting to also learn a little bit about the future and what would be the advice, right? So where do you see the AI, IoT, cloud converging in enterprise systems over maybe, I wouldn't even say like 5 to 10 years, maybe in the world where we are, things kind of move very quickly. So maybe in the next 1 to 2 years, maybe.
You mean AI, IoT, and cloud?
Yeah.
I think again, the next few years, I think I feel is somewhat kind of see that happening. I think it has become very clear that every company that has a product, doesn't matter what it is, needs to find a way to leverage AI to make that product better. Right? Better could be the obvious thing that's happening in companies that build software. You want to augment your software developers to use AI to ship products faster. Right?
Yep.
If you're a company that makes stuff, be it IoT, be it something else, like how do you actually infuse AI in that product? We're actually working with one of the largest manufacturers in the world, where they have a fair amount of money, resources that goes into servicing their products, right? And they have obviously a team of support engineers who actually customer calls and says, okay, something is wrong, and they have to. Yeah, now they can diagnose remotely, but now imagine if the customer can go there and have a conversation with that, whatever that thing happens to be, and then they can actually, you don't have to send the customer support person to actually do that, right?
Right.
So I think that part is fairly clear, that any company will need to figure out a way how to kind of make AI both how they build the product as well as what the product is also, right? Like your self-driving autonomous cars is a perfect example of that,
Exactly.
right? I can't imagine there is a car company out there that's not thinking how to get to at least level 3.
Yeah.
Right? Beyond that, yeah, who knows? But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think you would buy a car which doesn't have some of those active safety
Exactly.
stuff built
Yeah.
into it, right? So I think that part is kind of somewhat out there.
Very
right?
good analogy and yeah, good example there, Naveen. Also, what about like I'm kind of curious because you've been in the space for so long. You've obviously worked for tech giants. You obviously now lead Vianai Systems as well. What would be your advice for the next generation technologists? Maybe for those who are passing from Bhilai or different IITs. What
By
would
the
be
way,
your
Bhilai is an
advice?
IIT now. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I know. I recently
Oh, yeah.
learned about it. So yeah, but obviously because of you, we learn a lot about the IITs as well. So yeah, what would be your advice for the next generation technologists?
Yeah, I think again, so it's been an amazing journey, as you know, the last, I would say, 2-3 decades to be for all of us to be part of the technology industry, right? I think some of the things that we talked about, how just how we live our day to day has changed significantly from some of the examples that we talked about earlier, right?
Yep.
So I think and even within the enterprise, I gave you some examples as to why I stayed engaged, because we moved from on-premises to cloud and all that great stuff that happened. So I think the fact that things have changed in technology is obviously not a new thing, right? I think, and why am I kind of pointing that out? Because I think there is obviously this worry out there, and I am part of those set of folks who worry about how and what happens because of generative AI over the next few years.
Yep.
And the reason being is not because this is different, because there has been, as I said, change happening all the time.
Yep.
I think it's the pace of change that now worries everyone, right? And yeah,
True.
ChatGPT, not even 3 years old, billion users, and that's dramatic, right?
Exactly. Huge.
And none of us have seen anything like that ever, right? And it's not just that there's actual data now suggests, as you probably have seen, right? There was actually a Stanford report just last week that if you look at certain kind of job profiles, in particularly they looked at the two that we all see having the models getting very good at. One is writing code
Okay.
and customer support.
Nice.
And what they found that the number of hires, especially in early career, people fresh out of college in the 22 to 25 year range, there has been like a 13% decline in net new hires.
Okay.
And that's dramatic, right?
Yeah, it's affecting somewhere.
And yes, so it's already having an effect. And you can kind of somewhat see, right? I think if you, especially in software development, the thing that I know a little bit more about, the SWE bench, the benchmark that is used, like, I don't know, like in 2022, it was like 4.5%, 5%.
Yeah.
And now it's up to 75%, right? So just over 2 years, and compare that to Moore's law, it would have doubled, and now this is a 17, 18x improvement over that time period, right?
It's huge. Yeah.
So it is real in that sense that this change is coming.
Happening, yeah.
And so again, as I said, it's not about the change, it's how do we have the ability to react to it fast enough?
Yeah, exactly.
And some data suggests, like this Stanford report, that there might be and there are near-term challenges, right? But the one silver lining that I did see in that same Stanford report, and maybe that'll answer the question that you're asking. Okay, what advice I may have, right,
Yeah.
is that all the jobs that are getting impacted, even within those specific job profiles,
Yep.
are where AI is good enough to completely replace
Okay.
the person,
Okay.
right? Versus they saw actually pretty much no effect where AI is being used to augment whatever that individual is doing, right?
Mm.
And that is why the effect is more in the early career folks, right? Because the kinds
Okay.
of jobs that they are given when they first get hired is something that AI is able
Can
to do.
do it.
Whereas if you are mid-level or senior, um, there is work that AI is not able to do, as kind of somewhat seems
Yep.
the case right now, at least, right? Um, so where am I going with this, right? So I think net is that, I think people are saying it, so I'm not going to tell you anything new, is that I think you have to figure out how you stay curious enough, stay creative enough, right? Again, talking to the choir here, but I think the data actually suggests that is the case, right? It's the job of a mid-level employee. Yeah, if you're not creative, if you're not curious enough, you're probably not going to last at the company anyway, right? The fact
Yep.
that you are there, you are actually contributing at a level that, um, and I feel that that AI, while it keeps getting better, I think the creative part, staying curious, is
Right.
something
Right.
that I think we don't know quite yet how to do that inside an AI.
Yep.
Um, Hopefully that takes long enough that we have an opportunity to adjust
Yeah.
to this rapid change. And yeah, I think so. Again, that I'm sure we have always been told to do that,
True. True.
right? So it's not something new that because of AI you need to be creative or stay curious.
Yeah, I think every job needs a little
Yeah,
bit of
exactly.
curiosity or a little bit of extra sprinkle of your own
Yeah,
personality into it to make it unique.
yeah.
Right.
But now be conscious about it, right? I
Exactly.
think
Yeah.
that's what I tell my kids. I think figure out a way to use AI in everything that you do, and there is absolutely no reason that whatever you do, doesn't matter whether you, like my daughter studies economics, for example, or you are in medicine or you're studying law, we know all of these fields you can actually greatly benefit from AI, even in its current state, right? So why
Exactly.
would you not use it, right? And then hopefully you find time to actually do something the AI cannot do.
Yeah, love it.
Right.
This fantastic advice, and at the same time, you mentioned about some very important points. Is about staying curious. I like it, and yeah, thinking about the space. Don't don't be scared. Things. Yeah, just be more curious and more
Yeah.
creative in what you do.
Yeah.
One last question for you, Naveen, is if folks want to learn more about what's happening at Vianai Systems and if they also want to follow you, which is the best place to do that?
Yeah, I think we have a website, wine.ai.
Okay,
It's not the greatest website, but there is some information there. We do put out a fair amount of content on
okay,
our LinkedIn and our
nice,
Twitter. Um, in traditionally we have not done that a lot.
okay,
Hopefully, it's gonna change going
nice,
forward,
nice.
right? So yeah,
Awesome. And they can follow you on LinkedIn, I
sure.
guess.
I
That's
don't
the best
post
place.
as much, but yes.
Awesome. But such a pleasure to chat with you today on the Ravit Show. We'll obviously keep the conversation going. We'll keep learning more about what's happening at Vianai Systems. But thanks for taking the time out. It was such a pleasure to be here in Palo Alto at the Vianai office, and definitely looking forward to a part two very soon.
No, thank you
Thank
again.
you.
Thanks for coming over. Yeah.
For sure. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.